Okay. Yeah, we're gonna probably complete the quest. I have a sneaking
Of all
suspicion
the
that it
human species who
unlocks,
have walked
like,
the Earth,
a
it is
furnace
perhaps the
closer
Neanderthals
that's
that
not
people are most
Valkyrie.
fascinated by. Their likeness and close relationship to us has even led some to dub them as our sister species, and
They
even
were
their
all
DNA
girls?
can still be found within most of us to this day. While dates aren't clear, it is thought that this group of archaic humans inhabited parts of Eurasia between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. Most of this time falls under the Chibanian stage of the Pleistocene, a time when
I
Eurasia
swear I
was
knew
generally even
who that
colder than it
was.
is today and filled with an abundance of megafauna that made life no walk in the park. Therefore, to survive and thrive in harsh conditions, Neanderthals evolved some of the most insane biology seen in any Homo species. And if alive
What the
today,
hell? They were
some would most
homos?
likely even consider them to be
I thought they
superhuman
were all
in a few
girls.
senses. From
Lesbos?
afar, their anatomical
They're
differences to
superheroes?
us would not be so obvious, with the likeliest contrasting feature being their height, as recovered specimens show that on average, Neanderthals were quite a bit smaller than modern humans,
Hmm.
typically being 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches shorter
Oh,
than
hell
post-World
no.
War II populations. The tallest known Neanderthal specimen, dubbed Amud 1, is believed to have been about 1.78 meters or 5 foot 10 inches tall, which really doesn't seem that tall.
What? It's not, bruh. I would take on a mood one on a one-on-one-on-one. Now, I don't know who that third person would be helping me out in the one-on-one-on-one, but maybe you'll add a fourth person too. You know, I've never fought a superhero. I wouldn't consider myself a super villain, but it can't be that hard, right? You know, they're just dudes who dress up. You know, they're homos anyways, so it might not be that hard. Not to say that a homo is bad or something. Hey, dude, send me homoerotic videos and stuff. You know, I won't watch them, but the idea of it will be in my head for a few days, at least, I think.
All things considered. However, when comparing Neanderthals to European populations of 20,000 years ago, we find that Neanderthals were actually equally as tall and if not slightly taller. So that's really all to say that we don't know how tall they could have been.
Hmm.
What's fascinating though, is that despite being shorter than modern humans, Neanderthals were quite a bit heavier, with the average male having weighed up to 83 kilograms or 183
Damn!
pounds, while the females usually hovered around 66 kilograms or 146 pounds.
At 5'5", bro, I'll be honest, I don't think I can take on a Neanderthal anymore. I'm like 6 foot, I'm like 160 something. I would probably get my legs snapped, you know, but there's always the option of running away. They might be faster than me, but like, you know, if there's a hill around, I could just use like my skateboard or like grab a gun and shoot them or something. Do you think they're strong? Like the bullet would just like bounce off their chest and stuff, and like they're oiled up and like buff and stuff.
Making them 20% heavier than the average Homo sapien. The reason behind this paradoxical sounding information is that Neanderthals had crazy robust skeletons that were much more
They were
compacted than
busty.
our own, with virtually every single bone being thicker and heavier, with them sometimes even being twice the density.
It must have been
Their
fun too.
shoulders, femurs, chest, triceps, arms, and kneecaps were especially bulky,
Damn,
which
how
are
did
all
they get their
signs that they were
tries
extremely powerful and
heavy,
muscular
bro?
in life. And it is widely agreed upon that they were much stronger than us, a possible adaptation to their close-quarter hunting tactics that involved them using giant spears to take down medium and large-sized prey, which included various rhinos, horses, elephants, and of course, woolly mammoths, which
But
were
they
equivalent
fought.
in size to African
They
bush
beefed with
elephants,
elephants.
and sported thick coats of fur that made it that much harder to kill them. And speaking of African bush
Dang.
elephants, it's no secret that they're endangered just like their woolly cousins were before them when they were still around. As within just 3 generations, 50% of the global population of African bush elephants have died off. And
No.
while I love making videos about
What the
extinct
hell?
animals, I would rather not have any more animals to be added
Bro,
to
they're
the
covered in
list of
poop.
potential videos, which is why I'm really excited to be partnering with Planet Wild. Planet Wild is basically crowdfunding for nature conservation, doing fantastic directly into catch wild scare elephants on elephants, and hopefully
That's a good
their
cause,
extra worth, like
but
I mentioned, as they
skipping
contribution
the
friend
ad.
recommend sign QR. And if you want
That's
to
a
learn
good
more
cause,
about the
but
project I described
skipping the ad.
earlier, Check out the vigors is also what some researchers partially believe, presumably lifelong use of these spears, is also what some researchers partially believe led to the distinct Popeye-like arms seen in many Neanderthal
Damn.
specimens that would have allowed them to
Maybe I
wield
should just
weapons
start,
with ferocious intensity.
growing
The
spears and
well-defined
stuff.
nature of their arms and overall muscular build was possibly also a sign of extreme levels of hormones, according to at least one study.
Damn, they had high
Specifically,
tests.
the researchers believe that
test.
Neanderthals were naturally pumped up with large amounts of hormones that added to their increased muscle mass and provided them with the
Damn.
ability to pull off some pretty crazy.
So, like, are PEDs even really, like, you know, that bad and stuff? If they were doing them back in the BCs, bruh. Like, these Neanderthals were probably, like, shooting up steroids and stuff like that. And, like, you know, no one did nothing against it because, like, well, one, you don't want to fight a Neanderthal, especially when they're oiled up and have big arms and big chests and, like, big muscles and stuff. But, you know, also because, you know, if elephants and dinosaurs aren't able to kill them, you know, can you kill a dinosaur or an elephant with your bare hands and a stick? No, I don't think so. So your chances against, you know, the short kings are probably, it's probably not that good. But, you know, for every superhero, there's a supervillain. You know, I might become the jokester or something, you know, and throw that laughing gas and stuff like that. Maybe then I could fight a Neanderthal. Or, you know, a gun. But I feel too bad because, you know, I see a Neanderthal and, you know, I be seeing him walking down the street and stuff. And, you know, I don't want to hurt him or nothing. So I'll let him live his life, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm not quite sure, though.
Feats of strength, such as lugging up to 50 pounds or 27 kilograms of meat for 30 miles or 48 kilometers, the same distance as walking 138 laps around a soccer field. What's more is that thanks to their larger chests, shoulders, and triceps, scientists assume that Neanderthals would have been pretty great wrestlers and powerlifters if still around, with males possibly being able to bench press 500 pounds or 200 kilograms without training, while the females could have done 350 pounds or 160 kilos. For a little bit of context, just 2/3 of this weight would have been considered elite levels by our own standard. Their short, bulky builds played a big role in this strength too, but it wasn't only power that they gained from their robustness, as it bestowed upon them incredible durability as well.
Oh yeah,
nice
facts.
Touch to complement the brutally hard lives that many Neanderthals endured. In fact, a systemic analysis on recovered skeletons found that between 79 and 94% showed signs of extreme trauma that had fully healed. These injuries ranged from blunt force fractures all the way to traumatic amputations, with a particularly gruesome case involving an elderly Neanderthal, who during his younger years had lost his right arm, damaged his left clavicle, was smashed so badly in the face that he was blinded in one eye, and had ears so banged up that the ear canals themselves were shut off by new bony material that had grown after repeated injury, rendering him deaf in both ears. The high degree of damage seen in Neanderthal specimens
did they have like really high white blood cells and stuff like that?
Interpersonal conflicts and animal attacks, the latter of which actually seems to have been a common occurrence.
Oh my god.
74% of Neanderthals, based on...
Imagine being like attacked and stuff by like bears, bruh. And you know, I feel like in the modern time, it is a lot more likely that you'll be attacked by a bear, because, you know, bears are a lot more prevalent nowadays. Now, I don't know if I'm talking about nature at this point, because, you know, not many people actually go outside or go to the woods. I just suggest you do. It's like, it's safe, it's beautiful, it's nice. But I've seen some big, hairy men, and, you know, I've been looking at them, and I'm like, oh, if I say one wrong thing, that guy's like snapping my legs off and using me for whatever he wants, bruh. Like, I'm done. You know, there's like, at that point, is there a point in fighting back? I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments down below.
On one study, reflected evidence of having survived violent animal encounters, with 21% having been with big cats, 17% with wolves, and 36% with bears.
My cat be like
The most
cutting me
hardcore
up
part
too,
of all
bro.
of this is that scientists do not think that these animal attacks were predation attempts. Rather, the opposite. That the animals had been defending themselves during Neanderthal time.
Neanderthals were like crashing out, bruh. They were just going out and murdering like animals didn't even try to kill them, bruh. Was that like, I mean, obviously we're not Neanderthals or whatever. But do you think like that same, I guess, genetic, since we're like genetically similar to them and stuff like that, um, do you think we had that drive as well, bruh? Like we just go out and kill things like since forever? I mean, yeah, we have been warring since the BCs and stuff like that, and we made the dinosaurs go extinct and stuff like that too. You know, we fought them off, and then we shot a meteor at like North America, and then all the dinosaurs died. We saw that in the last video, a few videos ago. Maybe it might have been the first React video. I don't remember really that well. Anyways, yeah, that is the truth. The truth is that we have always wanted to kill things, I guess. Which I'm saying that, like, I'm not condoning killing or anything. You know, maybe if it's a dinosaur. You know, dinosaurs are pretty scary. I've seen a dinosaur one time. I don't think it was alive, though. They were showing it to me on the television. But yeah, you know, stay safe. Lock your doors. I don't know if doors work against dinosaurs. I think velociraptors can open doors, but I'm not sure about that. Now, I saw something somewhere where aliens reproduced dinosaurs one time in the BC time. No. In the 40s. And then they were like replicating it from space, bruh. Oh, no. This was another thing. The humans try to replicate dinosaurs from space, bruh. But then the dinosaur Satan was trying to, like, you know, diddy people, and like they were eating the people and everything. And like, you know, this is all to say that, like, really be watching, you know, outside and stuff like that. You know, I say be going outside, go outside, do whatever, but like ultimately, like, stay safe. You never know if a dinosaur or a car or horses, you know, people are horses. You know, we found that out last video. People are horses. People have autism. You know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, people are BBW. So I don't think this world is a safe place anymore. If you go outside, please be careful.
Talk about hardcore. And to really drive this home, even their skin was designed for battle, as genes found in Neanderthals are associated with thickened skin, nails, and hair that theoretically help them cope with getting banged up and enduring the cold. And yet another adaptation that seemed to benefit their rough lifestyle were large joints that allowed them to perform strenuous movement that would have been extremely hard or nearly impossible for a Homo sapien to do. And while not necessarily larger, Neanderthal hands were also much different from our own, with their fingertips being broader and their thumbs sticking out at a much wider angle, which likely affected the way they gripped objects. And to some, their hand shape possibly meant a reduction in precision capabilities, which they made up for, though, by powerfully gripping their items and weapons. So clearly, Neanderthals were absolute units on the outside, but they were pretty crazy on the inside too.
I want to watch
one
that
of the
show.
more obvious signs being
I watched the first episode a while ago and forgot about it
cage and larger
because
lungs,
my HBO
with
Max
studies finding that on average,
right now.
Neanderthals had a lung capacity 20% greater than our own. Yet, this number widely varies, and some exceptional Neanderthals have us beaten even more badly in this area, as best demonstrated by Kabara 2, a male whose lungs can most likely hold 9 liters of air, which is 40% greater than the capacity of the average modern man's lungs.
Bert, do you think like they just be living in the water and be like eating fish with their mouth and holding their breath and stuff like that, things of that nature? Or wouldn't they get pruny? Or maybe their skin, yeah, they have special skin or whatever. Imagine just being a Neanderthal and just like living and stuff in the water and like going with the fish, and like, you know, maybe they can understand the fish because, you know, they were different than us and stuff like that, as we're finding out. Could they talk with the fish? Could they also understand the wind is what I'm thinking. Because you know, when I think about the wind is trying to tell us something that we ultimately forgot how to understand. So like, you know, that's what music is. You know, when an artist is singing, you know, I listened to NBA YoungBoy one time, you know, about 10 years ago, I think. And now, you know, he was saying some stuff. And you know, what he was saying was I completely forgot what he was saying, to be honest. But you know, you got to be thinking that these artists are really just translators for what the wind is telling us. Now, do you think Neanderthals could understand that back then? I think they could. Could they talk with fishes? Yeah, probably, because they could hold their breath underwater for like probably a day or like a year or something. They could talk with dinosaurs. I mean, yeah, they made the dinosaurs extinct because they shot a meteor at North America and stuff like that, right? But like, yeah, I think they are talking to fish. Let's see if he answers that in the video.
To make this even more impressive, keep in mind that until recently, the largest lung capacity ever recorded in an athlete was only 8.5 liters.
Damn.
Neanderthals' noses further supported this notion that they
Fat ass
gobbled up
nose,
air,
bruh.
as they were quite long and wide, which helped them move air faster, as in 100%
Get that
faster
yam
than
on
what's
it.
seen by any man or
Yam
woman
off your
today.
face.
The need for speed, through their noses
I,
and their ridiculous lung capacity,
whatever.
is thought to have been an adaptation to support
Yo,
their
what's up,
heavier bodies
Crazy?
and to help them survive in the colder climates. Since animals who
How you
do
doing,
live in the
Crazy?
cold, Neanderthals included, typically evolve faster metabolic rates to compensate for the rate of heat loss that they experience. This is then,
Bro.
of course, reflected by their energy requirements as well. As in the case of Neanderthals, it's believed that an individual needed between 4,500 and 6,700 calories every single day. So, if they were still alive, you could expect food items to have two completely separate nutrition
What's a
labels,
Toa?
distinguishing between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals.
I'm also chilling.
The bulky nature of their noses seems to have helped directly with the cold as well,
I'm about to go skate
since more room in the
afterwards.
nasal cavity would have helped to heat and humidify the cold, dry air that was coming in. Now, because
Dang. So they didn't need no humidifiers and stuff like that in their rooms. Not that I use one. Maybe I should, because my nose feels really dry sometimes. They could regulate their heat really well because it was really cold back in the day. Now, how cold was it is what I'm asking, because I mean, to be fair, you know, back then probably the ice age was pretty bad, and like afterwards too, I guess. I mean, I guess we are living in an ice age. Ice age, ugh. But you know, it was worse back then. Also, they didn't have like, was this pre-agricultural? What did Neanderthals like even exist? By the way, was it like pre-pottery, Neolithic? Was it that? Or like, was this when hybrid agricultural I guess like tactics were used, or with like in tandem with like hunting and gathering and stuff like that? I'm not sure. Maybe their like arms were also like really jacked from farming, bruh. Or maybe not. Because I remember they were talking about like once agriculture became a thing, I guess humanity, like their backs were broken and they had like mad arthritis and stuff like that. And you know, they didn't even had like no icy hot or something to help them with that back in the day. You know, they would just be like, oh, this is the state of, you know, humanity. This is nature, I guess, I suppose. And they were fine with that. But I guess we just gotta be fine with whatever we are dealt with, I suppose. I mean, these dudes really just went outside and did whatever, bruh. Like, no one told them to stop. You tell them to stop. You can't, bruh. Like, if I try to talk to a Neanderthal, any Neanderthals out there, let me know. You know, they're probably gonna rip my face off if I tell them not to go outside and kill elephants and stuff of that nature. You know, if I try to talk with a dinosaur, I probably died too. But with a fish, it's another deal. I want to learn how to talk to fishes. You know, Neanderthals could do that. They could talk to the fish, probably. You know, that's what I heard somewhere here or other. And ultimately, talking with fish is, you know, gonna unlock the secret of the world. Bruh, like, 70% of the ocean is, like, water, bruh.
Neanderthals breathed like champs. You may be thinking that they were exceptional long-distance runners, who could tire their prey to complete exhaustion, much like what is seen in modern humans. However, on the contrary, Neanderthals were surprisingly poor endurance animals, who were instead built for bursts of speed.
Oh, burst,
And there's
bruh.
actually more than one biological trait that points to
I've
this.
seen that. I've seen that on like YouTube.com, you know, on the interwebs and stuff of that nature. I've seen people Neanderthal max, bruh. They'll do like Bulgarian split squats, and they'll do them like quickly, you know, stuff of that nature. Or they'll do like, you know, the jump where you jump stationary and you jump like hella far and up. You know, fast sprints and stuff of that nature. Is that like, are people becoming Neanderthals? Now I'm confused. People are becoming Neanderthals, but it was of my knowledge, you know, up to a few seconds ago, that people were becoming horses. Now, tell me, Guy, which one is it? Are people becoming horses, or are people becoming Neanderthals? It's like, it's crazy, you know? People are telling me like, oh, it's my birthday, like, you know, the 20th of June or something. It was your birthday last year. What? You were 18, now you're 19? Which one is it, bruh? Make up your mind. I'm tired of people lying to me like this, bruh. And this is just proof that the Illuminati exists, in my opinion. I've seen this, bruh. I've seen it. You're not gonna trick me into believing that people are becoming horses, and then tell me they're becoming Neanderthals. Now, the only thing that I can truly believe in, I don't know why the feedback, is, you know, the truth is that people talk to fishes. Or they should, at the very least. You know, if you see a fish out there, walking or doing whatever, you know, tell it hello. Maybe it'll talk back. Maybe it'll look at you. Maybe it's dead. Just, it's not breathing or something. Just, you know, talk to a fish once in a while. As a matter of fact, talk to, you know, people, bro. A big issue with people nowadays is they just, like, don't be talking. People don't even greet anymore when you're outside. I always try to, like, I always ask people how their day is going and be waving. I'm like, yo, how's your day? And they seem happy when I do it. But it's never the other person starting it. I think, like, once in a while, I'll have a person just not respond or even acknowledge that I'm there. Like, you know, if you have headphones, it's a little bit more, you know, I guess, like, acceptable. Because it's like, oh, maybe he didn't hear me. No, these people just don't like me. They hate me. And they're telling me that people are becoming horses or Neanderthals. Which one is it? I'm tired.
One example being their toes, which were fairly long and wide,
Bro,
allowing them
what
to
the
stay in
hell?
contact with the floor for a longer period,
They're probably
and
good at
thus allowing them
skating.
to generate more power and faster starts. Not to mention that their leg bones were quite short, something that's not usually seen in endurance athletes of today, who typically have longer legs to increase each stride. Even their Achilles tendons were not designed for distance, having been long and narrow, making them not the best at storing energy needed for longer runs. And this is once again in contrary to endurance athletes, who almost always have stiff, short, and wide Achilles tendons.
Oh, damn.
And yet, while their lower extremities were the most blatant signs of speed over stamina, the true proof in the pudding came from something unseen to the naked eye: their muscle fibers. As you may know, especially if you've done a 23andMe, humans have differing types of muscle fibers that each specialize in a certain level of power generation to stamina ratio.
I'll do one of those.
For example,
how much they
someone can have a
cost?
higher ratio of fast twitch or slow twitch muscle fibers, the former of which helps to generate bursts of energy, while the latter can possibly help people perform better and longer lasting activities, such as endurance running. In modern humans, these fibers are mixed, and this was also the case in Neanderthals, but they typically had a way higher concentration of these fast twitch muscle fibers than we do.
That makes sense.
Adaptation for their hunting,
and especially if you're like, a big part of your hunting style is probably ambushing. They probably were like, also, you know, they were killing cats and stuff of that nature. You know, cats probably have like 1 million fast twitch muscle fibers and stuff of that, you know, like that. So they have to like kind of get a jumping start, I guess. You know, should I become a Neanderthal? Now, personally, I don't know any Neanderthals. I've seen short people before. I've seen people on steroids before. Um, one time I saw, a Korean person. I see Korean people a lot. My town is like all Korean people. They're not Neanderthals, but I like talking to them. I thought that'd be nice to share.
Style, which required quick bursts of speed to get close and personal with their prey. This also means
Damn,
that if for whatever reason, if Neanderthals
they
came
wanted
back,
to be close
be
and
sure to
personal,
challenge
bro.
one to a marathon instead of a sprint, to at least give yourself the best shot of winning. All this power and speed no doubt gave them quite a lot of brawn, but interestingly enough, they were also a lot of brain as well, as they had freakishly large brain cases.
Oh, they give
On
that
average,
brain.
the male brain cases tended to be 1,640 cubic centimeters, and in the woman, it was usually around 1,460 cubic centimeters,
So they were smart,
which makes
bruh.
them about 30% bigger.
You think they had flip phones back in the day in the BCs? Now, I'm not sure, really. When the BCs were of the Neanderthals and stuff of that nature. But you think they were like FaceTime calling, or they had like secret technology that they just like don't even gave to us or something? Or maybe, bruh, maybe the person who created the phone, John phone, maybe his great ancestor of the Neanderthal, who could talk to fish, by the way, gave it to him. They passed it down generations, and he wrote on a piece of paper that said, don't release the telephone until like 1940, 30. When was the flip phone invented? 1800s. Whenever it was invented. Do you think they just did this for everything? They just like left notes, and they were like, release this at this time because this is the appropriate time to release whatever you got to release. You think that's what the Epstein files are like too, bro? You think the Neanderthal just told Trump, he was like, hey, release these Epstein files, and lie about it like 50 times, and don't release it, and he's just following what was laid out for him. Oh yeah, because there for sure was Neanderthals within the Illuminati, bro. The Illuminati had to exist back in the day. And I know this, for a fact. No, I haven't talked to like any Illuminati people myself. But I know someone who knows someone who's a Freemason. Apparently, allegedly. And they also asked, someone close to him to join the Freemasons. Now, I don't know why Mason's in prison. It needs to be freed. But ultimately, that's not up for me to decide and stuff like that. Maybe, Mason did something horrible. Or maybe he didn't. But I don't think I should be deciding whether he's free or not, Maybe he should reside in prison. Maybe they did, a good job with Mason's trial and stuff. Now, as for the Illuminati, we know that they were at least existing during the pre-pottery Neolithic era, because we saw those T-shaped items that were T-shaped, but really, if you flip the T around, it's an I. You see that? And they used to put that everywhere, and they used to have a bunch of dead bodies of animals and humans in there, and they don't know why. That wasn't explained. They talked about that in the video. I don't know why they did that either. It's kind of weird and creepy. But that's besides the point. The point is the Illuminati has existed forever, probably. Have they been touching people's butts since forever? Or like, humiliation rituals and stuff of that nature? Have they been like a thing since the BCs and the dinosaurs and things like that? I'm not sure. Well, I'm just telling you what you need to know to make up your mind. So let me know in the comments.
Than what's seen in contemporary humans. Now, pure size alone does not paint the full story of intelligence, but their huge brains were a good sign that they were at least far more intelligent than first thought.
Damn.
And today, it's widely believed that Neanderthals could perform a whole host of complex tasks, such as coordinating hunts, making tools, creating
Damn.
arts, taking exceptional care of the sick, and, of course, communicating.
Bro, how do you think? Yeah, well, I guess they'd be talking to each other. They'd be speaking English or something. I don't know. Anyone let me know about that? Because, when I think of Neanderthal, I think, they'd be communicating in grunts. They're like, "Urgh, huh, ah," stuff of that nature. Now, do you think they had the internet back then? The networks? Now, personally, the interweb has been along for, been here for a long time. A long while now. Now, the interweb back then was an abstract concept of, like, people talking to each other and stuff of that nature. They had computers, probably, made out of rocks. Yeah, you can make a computer out of rocks. I've seen it before. I went one time to school. I saw it there. If you want a rock computer, let me know. Because I know a few, people who have future PhDs in physics. I bet they could do it. I want to go to space. If I go to space, bruh, I'll just be, like, floating up there. I'll be doing nothing, bruh. Or, like, unless I have to do something. Do you think I can just, like, take out a loan and pay someone to go to space, bruh, and just be chilling on the moon or something? Do I have to pay the loan back? Let me know. I might go to space.
Yet, despite the size of their brains, researchers do not necessarily think that Neanderthals had superior mental prowess compared to us, as their brains were also structurally different than ours, having a more circular bomb-like shape that had to operate a large body, and devoted larger areas to certain senses, such as smell and eyesight, as their occipital lobes were relatively huge. And their eyesight is actually what some scientists think is to blame for the massive brains, as Neanderthals also had unusually big eyes, which would have required
eyesight.
much more brain power to process what they were seeing.
Hmm.
Of course, though, no.
I was thinking about that. My bad. Like, your eyes take up an unreal amount of your brain power, bro. It's like, when you go to sleep, and your eyes aren't, like, being used anymore, your brain really is resting like crazy, by the way. It, oh, I don't know if you guys remember this story, but I remember this one guy went to sleep one time, and, like, some homeless guy, like, went into his house and, like, took pictures of, oh, no. It was some random guy who took pictures of him breaking into some dude's house while he was sleeping, opening his eyelids, and then licking his eyes while he was sleeping, bruh. And then, like, he posted it online or something, and people were like, bruh, that's weird. Now that just goes to show how much, brain power really goes to your eyes, I guess. At least, like, when you go to sleep, bruh, you feel like nothing in your eyes. Like, you feel like literally they're just shut off. They be licking them, and it doesn't even, be waking him up or nothing. Now, how does that work? I don't really know. Don't ask me, bro. I don't know much of anything, if I'm being honest. But be careful when you sleep, because you don't want people licking your eyeball and not having you feel it, right? It's kind of disturbing to think about. In a sense, we should probably bring back cruel punishments. I've been saying this, and I think it's true. We need, like, public executions for some people nowadays, bro. The crimes that people be committing nowadays is crazy, bro. We need to, like, chop people's hands off, if they steal, like, peanut butter or something. It's like, it's really crazy, bro. Stuff has gotten, like, people burning down stuff and killing people for no reason. Hey, bro, just don't be killing people, bro. As a wise man once said, stop doing that dirt, bro. It's 2026, bro. You're gonna get caught. Just know.
One has ever found an intact
I
Neanderthal
guess,
eye.
unless you're a
But based on the
Neanderthal.
size and shape of their eye sockets, it is estimated that they were about 15% larger than our own, which would have helped them see a lot better and sharper than we do, while also giving them better night vision. These eyes, in conjunction with
night
their
vision?
big brains and large noses, gave Neanderthals some pretty sizable heads and skulls that might have led to their sturdy, thick necks, seeing that they
Damn!
had to be able to support
Bro,
such giant
they probably
noggins.
survived, like, car crashes
Furthermore,
and stuff.
their heads, relative to ours,
These dudes are
were not just bigger,
brainiacs.
but more elongated and forward-projecting as well. And unsurprisingly, their other facial features were supersized too, including the jaw and teeth.
Holy.
It was originally thought that their
chompers.
thick, wide jaws and sturdy chompers were an indication of an insane bite force that would have let them gnaw on bones, tough meat, and a variety of abrasive foods. However, subsequent studies revealed a bite force not far from our own, with it being comparable to the bites seen in the upper range of modern humans,
Oh,
and
damn.
would have registered at around 700 newtons. So that's to say, while it would hurt a lot to be bit, it would most likely not cause any catastrophic wounds, at least
like,
most of the time.
You'll get bacteria,
This does
bro.
call into question, though, why did they
They're
have
gonna have
such
to
large
amputate you.
mouths and teeth, if not for a strong bite? And one interesting idea claims that the answer is that the jaw was simply widened in order to accommodate the teeth themselves, which had essentially evolved to be a third hand. To be exact, a group of researchers believe that Neanderthals would have used their teeth to grip and manipulate different items, thus freeing
What?
up both of their hands for other uses.
Bro, they
And there's some evidence that
multitasking.
backs
Oh,
this.
talking about multitasking. Hey, be careful multitasking. You see what I'm doing here? This is bad. Don't multitask like I do. It's like terrible. Now, last semester for my communications class, my teacher had us read an article which no one read for some reason. I'm not gonna say that I did all the work in that class, but I did that. And apparently multitasking is like terrible, bruh. It like, I think it brings down your IQ by like 15 points after a certain point of doing it for like a minute. And it's even worse for guys. If you're a guy, be careful, bruh. Don't be multitasking. Apparently, like, okay, well, this is like what I don't understand. In the article, it said that the levels of damage that you get from multitasking is comparable to the amount of brain damage you get from like smoking a bunch of Zaza. Now, you know, I'm no expert in that Zaza lingo, but I do know that that ma does not cause brain damage of any kind. Now, maybe it does slow you down, but I don't think it does brain damage. I know a few people who smoke like a lot. They probably have brain damage. Unrelated. You know, those people are just, you know, I just know people who are, you know, not as smart. I got brain damage. I don't even be doing all that, bruh. No reason to be doing all that. Unless you live in China. Now, in ancient China, when they discovered Ma, what do you think they'd be doing with it, bruh? Because back then they had like beer that was 0.02%. They didn't have that good beer. Now I know that historically, what we know is that they used Zaza to make ropes and stuff of that nature. But I know, bruh, like, after a day of like killing Mongolians and stuff like that, or like, you know, being in the fields, or being just like Chinese and chilling and stuff, in ancient China, you know, they probably sat down with their friends, 0.02% beer, can of beans, some bread, and that's also lingo. You know, I mean, what else did they have to live for back then, bro? Especially in ancient China. Although, you know, with that said, China has been like a superpower like since forever, right? Like, they were the empire of all time, right? I don't know. Tell me about that.
Besides being grippy in structure and nature,
Grippy?
Neanderthal dentition have wear and tear patterns to the front that
Nothing wrong
don't
with
really align with eating or
nothing
chewing,
wrong with a little
and is
teeth,
only found
guys.
in Neanderthals, suggesting that they bit objects with their front teeth quite a lot.
Hmm.
The bulky nature of each tooth may have also
I
been
know
an
someone like
important
that.
part in processing their diets,
Big
which
front
we
teeth.
know based on isotopic analysis consisted of large amounts of meat. So much so, in fact, that they are considered to have been hypercarnivores. In other words, 70% of their huge caloric need came from meat alone. At this point, I wouldn't blame you for thinking Neanderthals were quite funky and different compared to us. You may be wondering what impact this has on you if you're one of the many with Neanderthal DNA. For example, if it means super strength or a voracious appetite for meat. Well, simply put, nearly every study on the matter so far has not yielded any significant results, and most maintain that Neanderthal DNA usually only has subtle effects on athletic feats and physical appearances. Although, there is a growing list of studies that suggest that their DNA may have had greater impacts on our internal system.
Imagine just like looking like a Neanderthal, bro. I'd be kind of bummed out. I mean, not really. Like, these guys are freaks, bro. To be fair, like he said, you probably won't experience any differences. Like, if you have like any percentage of Neanderthal DNA, other than probably like looking a little chopped. I think I changed my mind on that chopped comment. I might have a little Neanderthal DNA in me. Probably not. Neanderthals were like, what, European or something? Hey, bruh. Miracles happen.
Than we once thought. That being said, many of these studies have conflicted with each other, and there is a lot of disagreement in general on just how impactful Neanderthal DNA really is. But what no one is in disagreement with is just how amazing these extinct humans were. Thanks for watching, and until next time on Extinct Zoo.
That was the video of all time. I just remember, guys, that if you're a Neanderthal, you know, you're not chopped. You don't need to end your own life or anything, because the fact of the matter is, you made the dinosaurs go extinct. You like murdered cats and elephants and things of that nature, but you also, you know, probably had flip phones. You could talk to fish, most likely than not. He didn't answer that in the video, but also know that people have been becoming Neanderthals. I think I understand that now. That's a lesson of the day, guys. People are becoming Neanderthals, probably, or no, they have been becoming Neanderthals. But the fact of the matter is that people are still just becoming horses, I think. So keep that in mind. Till next time, guys. CoolGuy out.